Guys, Marshmallow Chomp here, back with a Clash mini video, and today we are going to be starting up a new series that I've been wanting to do for a while now, which is going to be called Mini Meta Weekly. And what this is I will play through a load of matches, and I'll basically just tell you what I've seen the most, why I've seen it the most, what's strong at the moment, what's weak. I'll just be going through what the best cards, decks, most used things are throughout the week, and I may do other announcements such as skins, events and whatnot, but the main thing is what's strong that week and how the game is just being played by all the players. So without further ado, let's go. So I'm going to do the heroes first, and because there's not loads of heroes, I'm going to cover every hero in how much I've seen of each played in reverse order. So the most played first, then the one after, then the one after. My game's lagging because my Wi-Fi is trash. So, the most played hero I've seen this week is the Archer Queen. Lovely card. And that's most likely because the Countess did get a small nerf, I believe, and because of that, people really want, before the Clashmas update, everyone was using either the Countess or the Archer Queen. Now that the Countess has been nerfed, obviously the Archer Queen is still as strong as ever. And because it was like 60-40 play between Countess and Archer Queen, now Archer Queen just seems to be the obvious choice because she's so strong. The reason that she's really easy and well played as well is probably down to the fact that actually you can be very successful with a low level Archer Queen. Your Archer Queen does not need to be high level, and you can still outperform many people, which probably is one big reason, as it allows free-to-plays and lower level players to actually be very successful with this hero, on top of the fact that it's a starter hero. So out of your 3 choices, there's a 1 in 3 chance that people picked it as theirs, and obviously that's going to be the highest level and the one they're most used to. So that's why Archer Queen is in the top right now. Not to mention that a new unit, the Musketeer, a new ranged unit, got released. If you don't know how Archer Queen plays, very, very ranged based. And also the Prince got released, which is a bit of a weird tanky unit. It's like a tank mixed with miner. And honestly, it seems to be working very, very well with the Archer Queen, which may seem unfortunate because I don't think it was intended for Archer Queen. However, it's a very good mini to go with Archer Queen, and because of that, both Prince and Musketeer are seeing a lot of play right out of the gate. They're both very good minis. I don't think they're necessarily overpowered, I think they are balanced, but both of them work very well with Archer Queen, which is the most played hero right now, so they're both seeing a lot of play. The next most played hero this week has been the Royal Champion. Now this might just be down to the fact that it's the new hero. Everyone wants it. It's very easy to get because of the event. If you didn't know this, you can get it very easily for free in the Clashmas event. And because of that, everyone has it. Everyone's going to give it at least one shot. So that might be one reason for it being played. I think it is broken, like the bowler originally was. It says that the shield should bounce between targets, and yet I've never had the shield bounce. Now I know that it does get an extra bounce when you get the hero to max level, but it does say extra bounce, not bounce, which implies, again, that the shield should be able to bounce between targets. However, even though this feature doesn't occur, she's still very, very strong, as every time she gets a kill with the shield throw, which is her move that charges up, it just refreshes instantly, and she can throw another. It does stun and high damage, and many times when I've been playing her have I just wiped out the entire enemy team with that ability just being loot, kill after kill. And honestly, I don't think that she's seeing a lot of play just because she's new. I think she's seen a lot of play because of how strong she is, and she's quite generic, so you can't really go wrong making a deck with her. Most minis fit perfectly with her. And it's not unusual to already be seeing level 4 to 6 Royal Champions, which is quite scary. I'll go pretty fast for the next few heroes, because I don't have much to say about them, because you don't see most of them that much. So first we have the Countess. The Countess did get a nerf, however a lot of people put a lot of effort into leveling up their Countess, and again, it's not weak. Sure, I think it did get a bit of a nerf. Even if it didn't, it's not the greatest of matchups against Royal Champion. Royal Champion can kill it pretty well. But even then, it's not bad. Even though it's not as good as it was last week or last update, it's still a very solid hero choice that you can't really go wrong with. It's very solid, it can take out lots of units, it's a tricky unit to get off of the board, and it still remains one of the best heroes. I think it will see more play after the Royal Champion's been out a bit longer, so people can figure out whether it's their playstyle or not. But again, I don't think the Royal Champion's bad. I think it's just going to see a little less play as people think, actually I prefer this hero. And because of that, I think the Countess will see a bit more play maybe next week. After this, we've got the Barbarian King. The Barbarian King did actually get a buff this update, and let me tell you, pretty good card, not gonna lie. The Barbarian King is very solid now, and there's a lot of ways to run him. You can run it the typical way with the Barbarian, Lumberjack, Barbarian King line, which you put at your front line, and because Barbarian got buffed as well, that's pretty devastating when it works. The only thing is, it either works and devastates, or just doesn't work and fails miserably. And because of that, people are like, oh, this is great, I'm going to play it, get like a 5 win streak, then get a 5 losing streak, and then just stop playing him completely. Which is kind of sad to see, honestly, but it's pretty obvious why. It doesn't stop him being a great hero choice now, and actually, before the update, he did actually start to see more play. So now that he's got buffed as well, I reckon he could be quite a decent choice. If you picked him as a starter hero, it's not going to be the be-all and end-all anymore as it seemed to be before. Because before, it just seemed to be a bad choice all around. If you picked him, you're going to lose, but now, you've got a pretty solid hero on your hands, and he works very well with a lot of units that you don't typically see, like Dark Goblin, Barbarian, Lumberjack, Valkyrie. After this, we've got the Monk. The Monk only really saw play last, I keep saying season, it was literally last update, because it was good against the Countess. Now that the Countess is seeing less play, so is the Monk. Nothing happened to the Monk. The Monk's a great hero, but against the Royal Champion and the Archer Queen, not the Archer Queen herself, but the Archer Queen decks, it's hard for the Monk to get his value in, because his value is obviously taking out large units, such as the P.E.K.K.A., and with tanks being played less and being removed with ranged units with low health, he's not getting his value, he's struggling to get close and get the kills, and with the amount of pushbacks and high damages at the beginning of the game, because he's a frontline hero, he's getting taken out by things like the Bowler, the Spear Goblin, and the Prince almost instantly. And then finally, the least played hero in my experience is the Shield Maiden. Now, honestly, I would not be surprised if next week this is completely different and the Shield Maiden is very, quite well played again. My reason behind this is because of the Archer Queen and Royal Champion, a lot of range cards are being used as well with Barbarian King. A lot of weird cards are being played that didn't see much play before, such as Barbarian, Dark Goblin, and a lot of these cards, even the Royal Champion herself and the Archer Queen herself, can deal a lot of damage to themselves when they fight the Shield Maiden. And I don't think it's really been discovered yet. Well, I say discovered, but it's pretty obvious. But I don't think it's really been fully tested yet. There we go. The Shield Maiden seems to be a great counter. Despite her nerf, she's obviously nowhere near as good as she used to be. But she's still a solid counter to both the Archer Queen and Royal Champion. So I could definitely see her getting played. Also, because of her deck being flooded with a lot of tanky characters sometimes, with maybe a couple glass cannons like Electro Wizard, I would not be surprised if this is like the new Barbarian King, where we see a lot of units that have lost play, because again, with these units like Spear Goblin, Prince, and Bowler just dominating early game, this pretty much makes tanks useless as they die almost instantly, so they're not serving a purpose, and you might as well just have an extra glass cannon that might not get hit and do more damage whilst they are on the field. Because these tanks aren't tanking any damage that a lower health character can't tank, and they don't have the damage output of a lower health character, so they're not worth it at the moment. But with the Shield Maiden deck, they all get played, well, a lot of them get played, which is good. And this entire just contrast to the meta that we could see is getting me pretty excited, honestly, because it's completely different to every other deck, and because of that, we're going to have a really weird rogue deck that can take on Archer Queen and Royal Champion. It's going to be hard to counter for a few weeks because people won't understand it. So, she's at the bottom, but I don't think she will be soon. I honestly think that she's going to have a comeback, as she can, again, counter Archer Queen pretty much, and a Royal Champion pretty well. So, yeah, I think it's going to look good for Shield Maiden players again. So, now that we've done that, I'm going to move on to the most used minis. I'm going to go for the top 10. And this is from my experience, so this might not be 100% correct, but with the amount of matches I've played, it should be very, at least, representative of what you're going to see in higher levels, and who you're going to see, and I'll go over why you see them as well. So at number 1, in pretty much every deck I've gone against, apart from, I don't think I've seen it in any of these that I've done in this video, which is weird. But the Guard is seeing a lot of play. Now, the only reason he didn't see much play is because people didn't have him 3-starred. If you have him 3-starred and manually pick your upgrades, I would say, right now, Guard, best mini in the game. I know I don't use him in all my decks, and obviously, the best card in any sort of card game or strategy game or board game, even though it's the best, it's not going to be used in every deck. But the Guard, I honestly believe, is the best right now. Purely because he costs 2 elixir to bring out. And straight away, you've got a 2 elixir tank. The only other card like that in the game is the Knight, which, before I carry on, if you do not have a 3-star Guard, not really worth running it. If that's the case, run the Knight. It's not as good, but he's better. Let's say a 1-star Knight is better than a 1-star Guard. But the Guard at 3 stars is so good that it can be run in pretty much any deck without fail. And it just has so much health that it's pretty much the only tank that can withstand something like a Spear Goblin and have a decent amount of health at the beginning of a round, or a Prince, or a Bowler. He can get interrupted, hit with stuns, and he's still gonna be very deadly. So, what the hell is happening here? So basically, yeah, he is the highest health unit pretty much when he has his Clash ability and an upgrade, which you might think, well, of course, because he's got upgrades, but at the same time, to get the 2 upgrades, that's a cost of 6, which is less than 2 upgrades on any other cost unit, obviously, but that's pretty low cost. Like, 2 3 cost units would have a tough time taking on a single guard with all them buffs. And because of the meta of Archer Queen and Royal Champion, with all these long-range units that need to stay away from combat for as long as possible, the guard's so good at taking in damage and taking away from combat, staying alive for a long time, that because of it, he's too hard to get rid of. He's a very tricky unit to get rid of, and because of that, he's just being used by pretty much everyone. I think he can get about 14 or something extra health. It might not be 14, it might be about 10 extra health that he can then just cast again, and then cast again. And he can end up having like 20 extra health in a match. Like in a round, sorry. Which is a lot. So because of this, watch out guys, because if you don't take care of him or you can't get around him, he's just going to stall whilst all the long-range units kill your entire team with ease. So there we go, that guard is already super strong. If my prince didn't hit it, I don't think we would have broken through this easily. But again, we're still fighting the guard. The guard is tanking all this damage, and all my units are distracted besides the Musketeer. But whilst that's happened, everyone has died. And that's purely because of how long the guard stayed on the field. Musketeer's got no chance. There you go. That's the power of the guard. And that was only 2 stars. So, I mean, it did have the 3rd star upgrade, but you get what I mean. So for 4 elixir... Wait, no. 6 elixir, they just won a match with ease. And that was an endgame match where everything's max upgrade. So, that's enough about the guard. He's very good. The next most used unit I've seen this week has been the Spear Goblin. And it's not really a surprise for a couple reasons. So one, there is a free skin at the moment in the Clashmas challenge for the Spear Goblin. People love skins. Free-to-play people probably don't have like more than 2 or 3 skins, so they really want to use it. He looks awesome, and you know, he's just a cool 2-cost card for the skin. Not only that though, it's a 2-cost card, it's ranged, which is great. Again, Archer Queen, Royal Champion, they love their ranged units, so pretty much anything that's a ranged unit and low cost can work with them decks easily. And if you're going against something like an Archer Queen, a Royal Champion, they're gonna have like one big tank like a P.E.K.K.A. or a Skeleton Giant, and Spear Goblin can pretty much insta-kill them right off the bat. There we go, I just killed a cloned Mega Knight, or mirrored Mega Knight right there with my Spear Goblin. And even though after he's done his main clash attack he's not that strong, he's still a ranged unit with decent range. But again, it's mainly that clash ability, that big spear at the beginning that's the incentive to use him. But you don't really need anything else after that. The fact that he's still on the board and he's still a unit is good enough. So, yeah, again, what to say? A cheap, ranged unit with no downsides and a massive damage at the beginning that can pretty much take out any tank. It can even kill things like a Countess or doom them. If you don't know what doom them means, it basically just means that even though they're not dead, they're going to die because of it. And, yeah, so Spear Goblin's seen a lot of play at the moment because you kind of need it to break through against these decks, like Archer Queen and whatnot. But at the same time, decks like Archer Queen run them because you're going to be mirror matching a lot, so it just takes care of that. So the third most used unit I've seen this week is the Skeleton Giant. As you just saw in my last match, if you give him 2 upgrades, which again, that is a lot of elixir, but it's worth it because it hits almost all the field and does 5 damage, which can take out, there you go, it doomed them tanks and just let my Royal Champion kill them with ease. And there we go, I won the round. I won the round last time because of the Skeleton Giant. I'm not going to hide the fact. And honestly, I would not be surprised if the buff that increases how big the explosion is. I would not be surprised if that gets a nerf. Which is sad because I love it, but it's pretty big. There's hardly anywhere on the map that's like not covered by it. And honestly, characters like Musketeer and Bowler and the Prince are all seeing use because they can push that away, push it to the back and try and kill it so the bomb doesn't hit them. And a character shouldn't be good just because it can get rid of a single other unit, but these other units are being played. One, because they're ranged and generic, but two, because they can get rid of Skeleton Giants. There we go. So, also he's a tank, and again, like I said earlier, tanks are dying very fast in this new meta. So a tank that wants to die is a tank that you want to use in this thing. Because, again, if they're going to die, you might as well have something that happens when they die, such as a massive bomb. Anyway, next unit, Prince. Prince, he's basically the miner. He's like a new miner. But instead of getting behind all the units, he might get interrupted, but he'll still do a ton of damage to the first one he hits. And not only that, he pushes that unit all the way to the back. So again, with tanks like the Guard, the Mega Knight, the P.E.K.K.A, or the Skeleton Giant, these units that you don't want to be at the front so you can get all the backstab kills, he pushes them all the way to the back so you don't have to deal with them, and he does a lot of damage to them so they're weak, which means that you can then start picking off all their squishy ranged units. Not only this, but he's very tanky himself. He does 2 damage a hit as well, so Shield Maiden, when she has her shield up, is still going to be taking damage from it, which is pretty cool. And again, he's tanky, so he can get behind the enemy lines and not just die fast like the miner. He can stay back there for a while, distract the units, break up the formation, and let your squishy ranged units do all the work like they should be. Which, again, with Archer Queen, Royal Champion, I know I keep saying this, but this is what they need, so obviously why wouldn't you have a tank that can just sit behind the enemies? But these are pretty much the only tanks being used in this meta, along with Guard. Mega Knight and P.E.K.K.A aren't seeing much play. They are seeing a lot of play with Archer Queen, but like nowhere near as much as they could or used to. So it's a bit sad for those units, honestly. So yeah, next we have the Miner. Now, I don't really use the Miner anymore, if I'm being honest. I even had a skin for him, and I don't use him anymore, which is kind of sad. But anyway, the Miner, oh yeah, I forgot to mention, with the Prince, anyone who charges that, anyone behind them move into another lane, and it allows for combos with Mega Knight and Bowler, which just make them two even better. So again, because they're well used, like the Spear Goblin, it makes them better and it makes him better, so they just keep going hand in hand and just become super strong together. But anyway, the Miner. I've not been using him much this week, or this update. However, that doesn't mean that they're bad. The Miner is still very strong. It's low cost as well, that is key. And it does still have, even though it's not as easy for it to do, it can still turn a game around. Because as you can see, my Royal Champion's just getting wasted by the Miner there. So, again, it's good against Archer Queen, which is why it's so good. It has the potential to just ruin a deck and get an easy 3-0. There's not much else to say about it. It can go behind enemies, kill ranged units, avoid the tanks. The only thing I would say is don't put it with or close to, if you are running them together, a Prince. Because you'll push the tank backwards and then the Miner has to fight the tank. That's not going to go well. Next, Electro Wizard. He got nerfed, but he's still a top tier unit that can just hold his own, win a game, stunlock you or your opponent. He can do a ton of damage, and he has a lot of range. He's going to be staying out of combat. He's usually bunched up in a group of ranged units. You're probably going to be protected if they know what they're doing. They're going to put all their units around him, because even though they don't want them units to die, if anyone dies, they don't want it to be Electro Wizard. And although these zap squares on Electro Valley got nerfed, they're still going to make it easier for him to zap loads of people. and he can still zap up to 3 enemies with his upgraded zap, which is a lot, and the damage output and the stun, it's just not fun to go against. He's still a horrible unit to fight. Honestly, I think they should have done a bit more to him, because before he was ridiculously powerful. Like, literally, you could hardly play the game unless you ran him. Now, you can play without running him, but he's still very strong, and I think he's still a bit too strong. Let me know your thoughts, though. That might just be my opinion. I might be alone on this one, but I think he's still a bit too strong. Next up, we have the Bowler. Again, Spear Goblin and Bowler now work well with the Prince, which you could see with my deck. My gameplay wasn't great, I'm sorry. This deck is better than that. But this leads to a triple lane lockdown. You can just rush 3 lanes, do a ton of damage to them all, eradicate the tanks, hit their squishy units, catch them off guard. But not only this, you can do things like a Spear Goblin and a Prince in the same lane. So the Prince pushes the tank out of the way and the Spear Goblin hits the squishy unit. Or you can do the one where the Prince pushes units to the side, so then the Bowler can hit loads of targets, like 3 to 4 targets in one push. So not only were they used a lot before because of how many units they can take out that would be hard otherwise, but now with the Prince, you can take out multiple lanes almost instantly, and they work well together. All 3 of them are seeing a lot of play. I do admit that the Bowler has seen the least play out of all of them, which is weird because the Bowler was like one of the most played cards last week. But he's still pretty good. I think it's mainly because the easiest combo is Prince and Spear Goblin, and the cheapest combo is Prince and Spear Goblin. Running 3, like I am, do not recommend it. It's kind of hard, and it doesn't really work all too often, but it's just too satisfying when it does that. It's just, even though it's not good, it's fun. Next, the Archer. Now, I've been using the Archer quite a bit, honestly, and I've hardly ever used the Archer before. But she's really good, and again, in an aggressive deck, where you're only probably going to run 1 ranged unit, most people are going to say either Electro Wizard for his stun and his high damage, or the Spear Goblin for his cheap insta-KO on an enemy mini. I actually recommend the Archer, especially in Barbarian King, because Barbarian King now buffs every unit of yours on the field, no matter where they are. And the Archer can, when upgraded, can hit 2 units at a time, and it's the furthest away ones. Which, who are they going to be in this meta? That's right, the Archer Queen, and whoever's guarding her or next to her. Or an Electro Wizard, even if you're not going against, even if you're like against a Shield Maiden or whatever, or a Monk, you're going to be hitting their Electro Wizard, their Ice Wizard. You're just going to be hitting valuable units, and she's going to be putting in a lot of work. And obviously she won't be getting hit much, because your Barbarian King, your Skeleton Giant, your Barbarian Lumberjack, they're all up front, all getting aggro, doing the fight, taking all the fight away from the Archer. So she's just chilling in the back, and she can pick off quite a lot of units. I've had it before where my whole team's been wiped out. They've had like 3 units that are all low health, and the Archer just finishes them all off with ease before they can even get to her. So she's actually very good. I can see why people are playing her, and she did get a cute little Christmas skin. Finally, the other new card is in the top 10, only barely though, the Musketeer. Musketeer is a great card. It's also a bit of a weird card. The thing is, she kind of screwed me over more than she's helped me, but at the same time she's a bit too good to not use. So she's a 3-cost ranged unit, and she can be used in any ranged deck. She can be used in any deck. She's very generic, and she has a charge up ability, a clash, not clash ability, what's it called? Hold on. A super ability, there we go. And it hits an enemy for 3 damage, pushes them back, and stuns them. So it can just completely ruin a tank, but again, not many tanks are being run. It's 1 tank per deck pretty much, and it always seems